tell you a little story. When I was in 7th grade, a few years older than you guys, I had an author come to my school. I don't remember anything that the author said. Nothing. Except for one thing. Somebody asked the author, how do you know if you're a writer? My ears perked up. I was curious. I did not think I was going to be a writer when I grew up. I was pretty sure I was going to be a professional basketball player. Didn't work out. I don't know why. But I listened, and the author thought about it for a minute. She said, how do you know if you're a writer? And she said, writers write. And I was like, duh. That's the definition, right? But then I thought about it. I was like, okay, maybe she's got a point. Writers write. Okay, well, do I write? Well, I write in school when my teachers tell me to. When I write for homework, when I remember to do my homework. But do I write on my own for fun? The answer was no. I never did. And so right then and there, I decided that I must not be a writer. I was not a writer. She made it very clear, right? Like, writers write. I do not write. Therefore, I'm not a writer, right? If I were on a test, you would get that question right? So I was sure I was not a writer. For the next 10 years, every time I got an idea for a story, I was like, you know, I would write a paragraph or two, but I would always quit and be like, what am I doing? I know I'm not a writer. The thing is, I think that author was wrong. Here's why. This is what my life was like when I was a kid. You guys know G.I. Joes? Action figures, like masks and guns and that kind of stuff, right? If you don't know what they are, they're like, you know, Barbies? They're like mini Barbies for boys with guns, okay? So, I used to play with these G.I. Joes all the time. And I would take one in each hand. Always went the same way. And one was usually the cool kid from school. And the other one was me. Not the coolest kid. And the cool kid would say something mean and funny to me, and all the other G.I. Joes would laugh. And then I would say something awesome and hilarious back to the cool kid, and all the other G.I. Joes would go, oh! Because I had dissed him. And I would feel really good about myself, right? It was a good comeback. Now, it's not always easy to think of a good comeback to the cool kid, so sometimes he would say something mean and funny to me, and then I would just beat him up, like, which was just as satisfying. So I used to do this for like hours and hours every day. The other thing I used to like to do as a kid was I had a basketball hoop on my driveway. I grew up in Baltimore. And it was a really awesome basketball hoop because it could go up to 10 feet or down to 6 feet. And then I really wanted to get good at basketball. I should have left it up to 10 feet and just, you know, practice my jump shot, practice my form all day long. But I thought it was much more fun to pretend to be good at basketball. So I put it down to 6 feet. And I would like dunk and shoot pointers and fadeaways. And the whole time I would talk to myself and tell myself these stories about me making the NBA, what team I would be on, winning the championship. Hours and hours a day I would do this. But eventually things changed. Because when I was 15 years old, I went away for the summer. And when I came back, I went and took out my G.I. Joes. And I didn't find any G.I. Joes. I found a box of heads and arms and legs of G.I. Joes. And I was like, what happened? What happened to my G.I. Joes? What happened to my G.I. Joes, it turned out, was that my little brother had taken my G.I. Joes and a hammer and had smashed every single one of them. He made like a line and just went destroyed them. Sometimes people are like, why would he do that? And the answer is that he is a sick kid, that's why. I love my brother very much, we're very close, but he has problems. So, anyway, he destroyed my G.I. Joes, they were gone. I moved here to New York City and I didn't have a basketball hoop in my driveway anymore, so my G.I. Joes were destroyed. My basketball hoop was gone. So what did I do? Well, I became a teacher, I started telling stories to kids, and eventually I started coming home and telling the stories out loud and typing them. So I tell them out loud, just like I had to the kids, and I would write them down like this. And one day I was sitting at home, telling a story out loud, and going like this. And I suddenly realized that telling a story out loud and going like this was just about exactly the same thing as telling a story out loud and going like this with G.I. Joes. Or telling a story out loud and going like this on a 6-foot basketball. And I suddenly realized that I had been a writer every day of my life. Every day of my life I had spent 2 or 3 hours a day writing. I never wrote any of it down, ever. But it was exactly the same thing. So if you ever find yourself doing things like playing, or talking to yourself on the basketball court, or staring out the window during math class, making up stories, That's being a writer. You can write it down now, you can write it down later, same thing.